All right, welcome to Turfgrass Team Times. It is May 7th, 2021, and online currently, we Dr. Cara Dannenberger, Dr. David Gardner, Dr. Dave Shetler, Todd Hicks, and Pamela Sherratt is floating around in the ethereal world of poor internet connection. So she may live or she may not. But we are starting to see that seasonal change. Time temperatures have been somewhat more favorable until the last 3 or 4 days. And so most of you are probably running around with your hair on fire trying to keep grass cut. And we will have seen an increase in other activities as well. And so other activities include the idea of weeds and weed problems. And so first up is the inimitable Dr. Dave Gardner.
All right, good morning, everybody. And so before I talk about weeds, I wanted to spend just a second mentioning, I know we're not supposed to talk about ornamentals in this section. There's actually at OSU, the Buckeye Environmental Horticulture Team, formerly NLT team that handles these kind of issues, but we have a special circumstance kind of unique that I wanted to spend some time talking about, and that is you'll notice that some of the red maples have suddenly what looks like defoliated, and as you can see in these pictures here, what's interesting is that it's biotype specific. So the picture on the right, you see those are both red maples. One looks just fine, the other one looks like it lost all of its leaves. What actually happened was that this year, for whatever reason, conditions were optimal for seed set, and so those trees produced a lot of seed in lieu of producing leaves at the top of the canopy. And so that's why you're seeing all of those whirligigs or samaras falling out of the trees now. Keep the lawns well mowed as those germinate, and you'll be able to keep those seedlings under control. But importantly, the picture on the left, I took that picture, and then 10 minutes later, I saw a lawn care company spraying that tree for I don't know what. It's not anthracnose, it's not petiole borer, there's no disease or insect problem on that tree, so it doesn't have to be sprayed. If you look close, there's leaves that are expanding, so in a couple of weeks the tree will look just fine. But again, keep tell your clients to keep their lawns mowed, or you keep the lawns mowed in order to keep those tree seedlings at bay as they germinate. Winter annuals are approaching the end of their life cycles. I still see some flowering and setting seed, and so I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about one product that you may or may not be familiar with. It's chelated iron. This is used in the organic lawn care industry. But I have been having pretty good results using chelated iron containing products on winter annuals that are approaching the end of their life cycle. So there's many of these that are on the market. Here's an example of some of the branded names. All of them are the same product at the same concentration, 26.52%. If you look at the label, all of them are supposed to go down at the same rate. But these are some weeds that I had sprayed with a high quality 4-way phenoxypyridinoxy herbicide combination and wasn't really getting good results. I went back and sprayed them with chelated iron, and this was 24 hours after application. So these are contact products. You wouldn't want to use them on perennial broadleaf weeds unless you were able to commit to a schedule to spray those like dandelion and clover 2 or 3 times to try to get season long control. But for a winter annual weed that's approaching the end of its life cycle, a chelated iron actually is something that you might want to try if for aesthetic reasons you're trying to get rid of those weeds. So again, things like chickweed or henbit, purple dead nettle, the veronicas. All of those kind of weeds seem to respond quite well to an application of chelated iron. So it's the month of May, and this is typically when we start focusing our efforts on controlling broadleaf weeds. So things like dandelion and wild violet and white clover and creeping Charlie are all in bloom now and quite noticeable in the landscapes. And so during the month of May, I'd recommend, of course, that you go out and make an application of a herbicide to attempt to control these. So remember that in the springtime, we tend to get control that's not necessarily permanent of these perennial weeds. Most of the products that we apply, there's going to be some variation, but you tend to get about 2 to 3 months of control, and then the weeds will come back. So if you see these weeds again in the fall, that's another opportunity to go out and attempt to control the weeds at that time. You tend to get more permanent control. But again, the month of May is when we should be making applications of post-emergence herbicides for broadleaf weed control. If you've had this ranunculus species, again, this was introduced as a ornamental plant, and like a lot of things that get introduced because we think the flowers are pretty, then it just escapes and becomes a problem. But lesser celandine, if you've had issues with that, it's kind of tricky to control it. Ultimately, if you can, if it's a small area, just dig out the bulbs. That's probably going to be the quickest fix. You can use glyphosate, although remember that's a non-selective herbicide. Selective control in turf can be attempted if you use a herbicide that contains at least 2 of the 3 herbicides that I have on this slide here. So MCPA, triclopirid, dicamba, so a combination product that contains at least 2 of those active ingredients has been reported to give relatively good control of lesser celandine. But since that is an ephemeral, that will start to fade out of lawns here in the next couple of weeks on its own. It's just, it will come back next year. Finally, and I hesitate to use a picture that I stole from another person who's on this call. Thank you, Dr. Danny Berger. But a reminder that if after you mow or your client mows and the lawn looks like this, they're just trying to have a problem with summer stresses and crabgrass, make sure in as much as possible during this time of year. I know rain can be an issue, but keep up with the mowing. Remember, you're not supposed to remove more than 1/3 of the leaf blade at one time. So, when you see this kind of an appearance, that's kind of the cue that that lawn needs to be mowed more often. And again, the whole idea there is to prevent problems later in the summer with crabgrass diseases and other summertime related stresses. Ed, that's all I have for today.
And that is invaluable. All right, following on with the show, Dr. Dave Shetler, what have you got?
Yeah, I'm going to quickly share my screen here. And what I wanted to point out, this is the tracker that's out of Michigan State. And I did want to point out that we are beginning to start the bluegrass billbug adult window. I've had several people that have asked me, what does this mean when they say early emergence? And what it really means is that this is the overwintered adult males and females have become active and are searching for places, at least the females are searching for places to lay eggs. And so you can see in this gray, the southern third of the state is in that window, and some areas up around Lake Erie are in that window. This particular window is useful if you're using something like a celloprene and want to get billbug control with a celloprene and then get the white grub control after that. I think that this is an important window for that. Or if you want to be the old technology where you were just trying to kill the billbug adults before they laid eggs. Currently, the only real materials that are useful for that and are inexpensive are the pyrethroids. Obviously, bifenthrin probably rules the roost on cost, but virtually any of the other pyrethroids registered for turfgrass management will also work quite well in knocking down the adult billbugs before they lay eggs. The last thing that I want to mention is the critter behind me. We're finding a lot of people are panicking. They've heard this brood X, which is actually brood 10 of the periodical cicadas, is going to be emerging on the western half of Ohio, and we've seen people doing all kinds of crazy things on their trees, trying to protect them. The reality is that I think in most urban areas, the periodical cicadas are not going to be a problem. It's only going to be in neighborhoods where you had some old standing trees. You have to remember that you had to have a mature tree 17 years ago for these periodical cicadas to develop. The other thing that's happening in the lawns underneath those old trees in some of those old neighborhoods, the cicada nymphs are pushing up little chimneys, what we call chimneys. They're little mounds of soil or dirt. They actually look like a miniature crawdad burrow opening that's sticking up. And I've had, again, several people here in the Columbus area that have sent pictures of these little mud mounds in their lawn and wondering, is this a new grub or something else? No, it's just the cicada nymphs pushing up the soil, getting ready to emerge. As soon as they emerge and a couple of rainfalls occur, you're not going to see any damage from that in the turfgrass area. Okay, Ed, that's all I've got.
Dave, I'm sure once those cicadas come out, you'll have more than enough pictures and plenty of damage. Anyway, seeing as Pamela, go ahead.
The real issue is going to be over at Muirfield at the Memorial Tournament. 17 years ago, it was so funny watching the referees raise their hands for everybody to be quiet, and all of a sudden there's some cicadas hitting the golfer in the head, and the cicadas obviously didn't stop their sounds when the hands went up. So it's going to be fun again watching that on TV.
Of course, Dave, only an entomologist would find that fun, but okay. Now that Pam Sherratt has been able to pull herself out of the mire of internet problems, I'm going to let her cut in front of our other team members. So Pam, take it away and don't.
Hello. Yes, thank you for letting me in this morning. I had a terrible time with connections, but anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about sod today. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Give me a thumbs up. Yep. So I wanted to talk a little bit about sod because I know that this is a great time to seed, and seeding does give a fantastic sward, but this is really a good time to sod also. So if you've got high traffic areas like goal mouths, linesman's runs, position areas on baseball or softball, areas in front of the mound, those areas that get high traffic, sod is a really nice way. Two things: it gives you immediate ground cover if you want to keep games being played, and also it gives you an opportunity to get Kentucky bluegrass back on the field, because a lot of sports turf managers are overseeding ryegrass so much because it's so quick during play and heavy traffic. We can see these fields transfer into a perennial ryegrass dominant field. And so sodding really gives you an opportunity to get Kentucky bluegrass back onto the field. And so Ben Jackson, certified sports field manager with the Columbus Crew, OSU alumni, sent me some pictures. I can't go see him yet because it's still a construction zone, but I'll get in there as soon as I can. I'm trying to bribe him on that issue, but he sent me some pictures. The sod went down 20th of April. The new sod went into Crew Stadium, and it is a Kentucky bluegrass sod. It was grown on sand, so it came from the northeast coast, and it was shipped in from there. And so it's a Kentucky bluegrass stand grown on sand, and you can see it's been laid down there brick-like fashion so that the seams are staggered, immediately irrigated to stop those seams from drying out, and so that it meshes together. Probably top dressed as well, again, to mesh those seams together pretty well. And then the exciting news is at Crew Stadium, they got their lights delivered this week. So they will have some shade issues because of the roof. Fan comfort. Obviously, we don't want fans sitting out in the rain and all the elements because the season does start so early in March. And so a lot of the stadiums now have roofs on them, but that obviously contributes to shade issues. So the light racks were delivered this week and set up, and I'm sure it'll be a learning curve for the grounds team there to manage them, but that's pretty exciting. Hopefully going to get down there and see that with Ben shortly. So again, if you're thinking about sodding, obviously if you've got a native soil field, you'd get a native soil sod. You want to match the sod that comes in with the same root zone that you currently have on the field. Quality control is important. Make sure that it's weed free and pest free when you bring it in. And I did talk with a friend this morning who works with a sod company, and he said right now with COVID, you can't just go to a company and they're going to have pallets of sod sat outside their office or the distributing center. They're doing cut to order right now. So if you want sod, call ahead, give them time, they'll cut to order. And then finally, I just wanted to give a plug to the Sports Turf Managers Association and OTF are going to be hosting a field day. It's going to be outdoors, socially distanced. It's going to be at the Warren County Sports Park, and the sign-up details will be on the Ohio Turfgrass website and on their Twitter page. So hopefully we'll get to see some people there. And I do believe some of the illustrious people on this phone call will be speaking on that field day, I believe. So that's all I have, Ed. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. I'm sure they don't know that they're speaking yet, but they obviously will not give it much choice, and their arms will be twisted behind their back. To follow up on Pam's comment, a couple of things to keep in mind. We are looking at field days, and the OLCA field day, the OTF field day are currently scheduled, but we're working within the parameters of what we can and cannot do. So do keep those rough dates, so that first week in August free, the 17th or 18th of June also, if you're in Northeastern Ohio. And then the Northern Ohio superintendents have an event, and that's why I'm here at Ellsworth Meadows over in Hudson, Ohio. They have an event on August 17th. So we're trying to get back to more of a normal situation, but we're also having to be very careful about what we can and cannot do. Now, that being the case, with all the rain, Todd, what problems do we have?
Well, Ed, as everybody's talked about, the weather has significantly changed. We seem to have May weather back in April and March, and we're now getting the cool March weather here in May, which everybody's been very well off, athletic field wise, golf course wise, disease wise, until about this week. And my phone started ringing, my internet started to blow up. The first thing that showed up is in Northern Ohio, primarily, leaf spot seems to be really hitting hard up there. My two things with leaf spot to warn people is number one, once you get it, it's going to stick around probably the rest of the summer, because as you well know, all it needs is wet. We have different varieties of leaf spot. One likes cold weather, one likes warm weather. So if you get it, try to take care of it, nip it in the bud quickly, or it's going to contend a contentious situation all summer long. The second problem with leaf spot is it's a gateway disease. Once you get leaf spot, that's going to lead to other things like dollar spot and anthracnose, if you struggle with those, coming in much more severe than you normally would have them, because the turf's already weakened and your grass is a thinned out state. The other problem we're seeing is with this severe cold and the wetness coming back in, pink snow mold showing back up. Not real bad problem, but it is significant because golfers are out there, everybody's playing, it just looks bad. So you may want to put a treatment out for that this week. We're going to be in at least about a 10-day cool down, and it's going to be super wet. So look out for that one. And the final thing to look out for is summer patch. Not getting summer patch, but I know a lot of people made summer patch applications very, very early this year. And then we have had snow, we've had frost, we've had rain, and we've been really cold. So to me, that summer patch timer may have actually reset itself. If you have a problem with summer patch, a history of it, you may want to wait till the weather gets a little warmer. You hit that 65-degree soil temperature for 3 to 5 days consistently, not at the peak hours of the day, and make another application if it's been a problem. But that's the update so far from the disease side of things.
Thanks, Todd. And that average temperature thing is a critical point. This thing of sticking a probe in the ground at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is not relevant to the whole level of activity biologically. So great stuff there. Last but not least, the man who walks on water, Carl Danneberger.
Oh, yes. They left me to be last, so I'd wrap this up quickly. Just a couple of announcements for all of us. This has been a week to post grades for spring semester. So we are coming to an end of that and another academic year, which is kind of amazing in some ways. And for some of us, summer session starts next week on Wednesday or Thursday. So I guess it never stops here at Ohio State. But anyway, for any of those who are listening in, who are graduating from anywhere from a school in the state of Ohio, congratulations. My message is relatively short, again, related to weather, is that we're expecting frost in outlining areas tomorrow with cool weather going through the week and whether it's clouded or not clouded at night. I would just be a little bit careful when you go out on turf areas or large turf areas, that you look for those areas where frost can be most prevalent, probably under trees, cooler areas. So again, you can still get a little bit of damage on turf from frost if you mow across it or put traffic on it. But like everybody else says, everything's we've kind of reverted weather-wise back a few weeks. I guess I'll have to get out my long pants. I've been wearing shorts.
There's something everybody.
That's it, Ed.
Carl. Just to follow
That
up
was
on the
such
weather
a
thing.
technical. That was such a technical report. It just
Aye.
blew my
You-
mind.
you-
You know?
It's like your magical fairy dust. You just put it on the sugar cake and make it good. Just to refer, I know it's been wet, folks, but for the year to date, Cleveland is still down 4.5 inches, right? So we are not in this situation where we've suddenly caught up to the moisture that we were missing. And I would expect that Central and Southern Ohio, well, unless the Cincinnati guys got that 7 inches of rain that was forecast about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I didn't see pictures of Noah's Ark. So I would expect that we still are on the dry side for the year. So don't think that, we've suddenly caught up and everything is good. Now, I do understand everybody had a great March and early April as far as golf. Put that in the bank and be happy with it, because remember, that probably wasn't quite the normal, though, as Dr. Gardner says, the last 2 springs have been abnormal as well. So it's one of those things. There's no such thing as a continuous good day or good month in outdoor activities. So if there's nothing else, folks, I will wrap it up. But if the viewers have questions, things like that, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We will bring it up next week or probably the week after, depending on how exhausted everybody is from the end of the semester. And we'd like to thank you and OTF for the support. We will talk to you soon. Thank you.